Orphan girl pleads with the billionaire. Could you be my dad's in school, just for today? Unaware that's her father. Please, sir, could you be my dad at school just for today? Her voice was small, trembling with the kind of hope only a child could carry. An orphan girl, clutching her worn backpack, looked up at the powerful billionaire, as if the world rested on his answer. She thought it was just pretend, just a chance to not feel different from the other children, just for one day. But sometimes the simplest questions uncover the deepest truths, because what she didn't know was that the man she was begging to play her father was her father all along. This is the story of a child's innocent plea, a man's hidden past, and a truth that would change both their lives forever. And today, it is being retold by me. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request, please. Subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. The bell rang across the playground, and children spilled out of their classrooms, laughing, running, holding brightly colored papers in their hands. Their voices rose in cheerful excitement as they compared invitations and planned with their parents. Don't forget, tomorrow's Parents' Day, a teacher called as she locked the classroom door. We'll see everyone with their moms and dads right here at school. Lily clutched her thin notebook close to her chest. She tried to smile like the others, but her heart sank with every passing second. Around her, classmates chatted about their mothers' dresses, their fathers' cars, the gifts they were bringing for the event. She had nothing to add, no one to mention. Are you coming with your dad, Lily? One boy asked with a smirk. She doesn't have a dad, Sophia answered before Lily could speak. Sophia's golden hair bounced as she laughed, her dress crisp and new even for an ordinary school day. She doesn't have a mom either. She lives in that old orphanage. Poor thing. No wonder her shoes look like they're from the trash. The other children giggled. Lily's face burned, and she lowered her head, staring at her scuffed shoes. They were second-hand, the soles almost worn through, the laces frayed. She wanted to say something back, but her throat closed up. Sophia leaned closer, her voice cutting. Maybe she can ask the janitor to be her dad tomorrow. At least then she won't look so lonely standing there all by herself. The laughter stung worse than a slap. Tears welled in Lily's eyes, but she blinked hard, refusing to let them fall in front of them. She turned quickly and walked toward the gate, her small shoulders trembling under the weight of their words. At the orphanage, things weren't much better. Sister Margaret was strict, her voice sharp like the crack of a whip. She believed discipline kept children in line, but her discipline often turned into coldness. Stop sulking, Lily, she said when she found the girl sitting quietly by the window that evening, staring at the other children with their parents passing by on the street. Life is hard. You must learn to endure it. Lily lowered her head. Yes, sister. But enduring didn't make the ache smaller. That night she lay on her narrow bed while the other children whispered about Parents' Day. Some of them would have visitors, distant relatives, maybe an uncle or aunt. Lily had no one. She pressed her face into the thin pillow and let silent tears soak into the fabric. The next day came too quickly. The school was decorated with banners and flowers. Cars lined the street, dropping off parents dressed in their best, fathers in suits, mothers in pearls, all smiling as they carried gifts and embraced their children. Lily stood at the edge of the playground, clutching her worn backpack. She kept her eyes on the ground, pretending to be invisible. The laughter and hugs around her cut deep. She wished the earth would swallow her whole. Where's your family, Lily? Sophia's voice rang out again, loud enough for others to hear. She stood with her mother, who wore a glittering necklace. "Oh, right. You don't have one." Her mother gave Sophia a warning look, but Sophia grinned anyway, enjoying the sting her words caused. Lily's lips trembled. Her chest felt heavy, as if someone had filled it with stones. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but her legs stayed rooted to the ground. Then, as if fate had shifted the air, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the school. The crowd's chatter hushed as a tall man stepped out, his presence commanding attention without effort. He wore a tailored suit, his dark hair brushed back, his expression cold and unreadable. "Mr. Harris," someone whispered. "Edward Harris." The billionaire gasps followed, children pointing, parents nodding in admiration. Everyone knew his name. He was a man of power, of wealth, untouchable. Lily looked up for the first time. Something about his face made her heart jump. She didn't know why, but her chest tightened as if she recognized something she couldn't explain. He was here for charity, not for her. But desperation pushed her small feet forward before she even thought. She tugged lightly on the sleeve of his jacket. Her voice shook, barely above a whisper. "Please, sir, could you be my dad at school, just for today?" The world seemed to stop. Edward Harris looked down at the small girl before him. Her eyes were wide, glistening with unshed tears, her dress plain and faded, her shoes worn. The words pierced straight through him. For a moment, his carefully built mask of cold indifference cracked. "What did you say?" His voice was low, startled. Lily swallowed hard, her tiny hands trembling. "Just for today. I don't want to be the only one without a parent. Everyone laughs at me. Just pretend, please." Only today, the crowd had begun to whisper. Some looked amused, others shocked. Sophia and her friends stood frozen, their mouths slightly open. Edward's first instinct was to walk away. He was not a man who played games, certainly not one to entertain a child's fantasy. But as he looked into her pleading eyes, something stirred inside him. Something old, buried, and painful. For the first time in years, his heart clenched. Edward Harris was not a man who bent easily. He was known for his sharp deals, his ruthless efficiency, and his cold detachment. People in business circles called him a machine, a man who thought in numbers, not feelings. Yet now, in front of this trembling girl, his composure wavered. Her small hand still clutched his sleeve. Her eyes, too big for her face, brimmed with desperate hope. Something about them unsettled him, something too familiar. "I'm not your father," he said flatly, trying to loosen her grip. His voice was cold, but not as steady as he wanted. "I know," Lily whispered, her voice breaking. I just don't want to stand alone today. Everyone has someone. Please, sir, just for today. Just pretend." The words hit him harder than he expected. Memories flashed unbidden. An old face, a woman's tearful eyes, a goodbye he had buried long ago. His jaw tightened. He should walk away. This was not his problem, yet his feet remained rooted. The teacher approached nervously. "Mr. Harris, you don't have to—" "I'll do it," Edward interrupted, surprising even himself. His tone was clipped, but the decision was made. Lily's eyes widened, her face lighting up with a joy so pure it startled him. She smiled, a real smile, one that made her look almost radiant despite her plain clothes. She slipped her small hand into his, and for a moment he let her hold it. Around them, whispers erupted. "Did you see that?" Edward Harris agreed. "He's pretending to be her dad." Why would a billionaire do that for an orphan girl? Sophia's smirk froze on her lips. For once, she had no words. Inside the school hall, Parents' Day was in full swing. Children presented projects while parents applauded, cameras flashing. Laughter filled the air. When Lily walked in with Edward Harris towering beside her, The room fell silent for a brief moment. The teacher announced, Lily and her father, Mr. Harris. Lily's head lifted proudly. For once, she wasn't the outcast. She wasn't the girl with no name, no family. Today, she belonged. She stood taller, her shoulders no longer slumped. Sophia's jaw dropped. She tugged on her mother's sleeve, whispering furiously. But her mother gave her a warning glare, embarrassed by her daughter's past mockery. During the event, Edward sat stiffly, his sharp eyes scanning the room as though he were guarding himself against every glance. Yet he couldn't stop looking at Lily. The way she beamed when she read her essay, the way she glanced at him shyly as if to make sure he was still there, it stirred something deep inside him. At one point, Lily leaned closer and whispered, "Thank you, sir." "This is the happiest day of my life." Edward's throat tightened. He didn't answer right away. Words felt heavy. Finally he muttered, "Don't thank me." But inside he was shaken. When the event ended, parents gathered their children, hugging them tightly, promising ice cream and gifts. Lily clutched her backpack, still holding Edward's hand, reluctant to let go. "Do I call you Dad now?" she asked softly, her voice hesitant. Edward looked at her, and for the briefest second, his cold mask cracked. Her eyes, they mirrored eyes he once knew. His heart thudded painfully. "No," he said sharply, pulling his hand free. "This was only for today." Lily froze, her face falling, but she nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Only today. Thank you, sir." She lowered her head, fighting the tears threatening to spill. He turned away, striding toward the door, but something in her silence made him pause. Against his will, he glanced back. She stood alone again, her small figure dwarfed by the crowd. Yet she smiled faintly, as if forcing herself to be brave. And in that moment, Edward Harris, the man with everything, felt an ache he couldn't explain. He didn't know why her face haunted him. He didn't know why her voice lingered in his ears. But he knew one thing for certain. This was not the end. As his car pulled away from the school, Edward clenched his fists. For years he had buried his past. But now, staring out the window, he whispered a name he hadn't spoken in years. And back at the orphanage gates, Lily walked slowly, her steps heavy. Her smile faded the moment no one was looking. She whispered to herself, "Just for today. Just once I felt like I belonged." She hugged her backpack tightly, the memory of holding his hand warming her heart even as loneliness returned like a shadow. What she didn't know, what neither of them knew yet, was that her innocent plea had already begun to unravel a truth hidden for years. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give future to children and women abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing to hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell. Also let us know in the comments where you are watching us from and how this story hit home for you. Edward Harris sat in the back of his car, the city lights blurring past the tinted windows. Normally, his mind would be on numbers, deals, and contracts. Tonight, none of it mattered. All he could see were those wide eyes looking up at him. "Please, sir, could you be my dad, just for today?" The words echoed in his head like a drumbeat. He had thought he buried his emotions long ago, but that little girl had shaken something deep inside him. "Mr. Harris?" his driver asked quietly, noticing the silence. Edward waved him off. "Just drive." But even as he tried to push it away, the memory refused to leave. The girl's smile, her trembling hands, the way she clutched his sleeve. It was as though fate had dragged him back to a past he had sworn never to revisit. 2 days later, Edward appeared at the orphanage. The staff were shocked to see him, assuming he came for a generous donation. Sister Margaret, stiff and proper, greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Harris, what an honor," she said, leading him inside. "Our children will be thrilled to know such a man cares about them." Edward's eyes swept the room until they landed on Lily, sitting alone in the corner, quietly stitching the torn strap of her backpack. She didn't notice him at first, her small hands working carefully. Something twisted in his chest. "I want to sponsor this place," he said curtly. "Donations, supplies, whatever's needed." Sister Margaret's face lit up with practiced gratitude. "That would mean so much. The children will benefit greatly." But Edward wasn't looking at her. He was watching Lily. That night he found himself in his study, glass of whiskey untouched at his side. He stared at an old photograph locked away for years. A young woman with soft eyes and a gentle smile. Anna. He hadn't spoken her name in so long. "Anna," he whispered to the empty room. Memories clawed at him. He had loved her once. Before the money, before the empire, when he was just Edward. She had been everything, kind, warm, unpretentious. They had dreamed of a simple life together, but his mother had other plans. "Do you want to throw away your future for a poor girl?" she had said, her voice sharp as steel. "Your duty is to this family, Edward. To our legacy. You will marry the daughter of the Beaumonts, not some nobody he had fought at first. He had promised Anna he would stand by her, but pressure mounted, and his mother's grip was suffocating. You will choose wealth, or you will lose everything, she warned. In the end, he chose wrong. He let Anna go. He told himself she'd be fine, that she would move on. But her tear-streaked face on that last night haunted him still. "Please, Edward, don't leave me. I need you." He had walked away. What he didn't know, what he only now began to suspect, was that Anna had been carrying his child. As he sat there in his study, the whiskey untouched, Edward felt the past pressing against the present. Lily's age, her eyes, her smile, they were too familiar, too much like Anna's. Could it be? Meanwhile, Lily's days at school grew darker. At first, after Parents' Day, she felt a small spark of happiness. The memory of holding Mr. Harris's hand stayed with her, warming her heart. But joy never lasted long. Children could be cruel. One afternoon, Sophia cornered her in the hallway with two other girls. "So," Sophia sneered, "you think you're special now because a rich man pitied you." Lily froze, her backpack clutched against her chest. "He's not your dad," another girl said. "Everyone knows that. He just felt sorry for you. That's all you'll ever get. Pity." Sophia leaned closer, her voice dripping with poison. "Your parents didn't want you. That's why you're here. Even Mr. Harris won't want you. You'll always be alone." The words sliced deeper than any laughter ever had. Lily's throat closed. She wanted to scream, to run, but instead she stood frozen, her eyes stinging with tears. She pushed past them and ran outside, gasping for air. That night, back at the orphanage, she sat by the window, hugging her knees. Her heart felt too heavy for her small body. She whispered to herself, "Don't hope, Lily. Don't hope. It only hurts more." When Edward visited again the next week, she avoided him. She ducked behind other children, kept her answers short, her eyes lowered. She no longer tugged at his sleeve, no longer looked up with shining hope. Edward noticed. He saw the way her shoulders drooped, the way her smile was forced. And something inside him ached. The more he watched her, the more certain he became. He began quietly investigating, asking questions, pulling old records, piecing together fragments. And slowly a picture emerged. Anna. Letters never answered. A child born around the same time, records of hardship, of sickness. And then, Anna's death. Edward gripped the papers with shaking hands. His mother's signature was on some of the intercepted letters. The truth hit him like a hammer. Anna had begged for help. He had never known. His mother had hidden everything. And because of it, Anna had died alone. And Lily had grown up without parents. His breath came ragged. He buried his face in his hands. "My God," he whispered. "What have I done?" One grey morning, he returned to the orphanage, his expression colder than usual, but his eyes burning with fire. Sister Margaret met him at the door, her polite smile faltering when she saw the storm in his face. "I need to speak with you," Edward said, his voice sharp. "Now." She stiffened, but led him into her office, closing the door behind them. "I want the truth about Lily," he demanded, pacing the small room. "Who were her parents? Where did she come from?" Sister Margaret's hands trembled as she clutched her rosary. "Mr. Harris, the children here are all—" "Don't give me generalities," he snapped. "You know more than you're saying. I've read the records. I've seen Anna's name. Now tell me everything." At the sound of Anna's name, Sister Margaret froze. Her lips parted, and her face crumpled with guilt. "I suspected this day would come," she whispered, sinking into her chair. "I prayed it never would." Edward leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "What did you do?" Sister Margaret pressed her shaking hands together. "When Lily was brought here, I saw her papers. I knew her mother's name. Anna. I remembered her. A gentle woman, poor, sick, struggling. She died too young. And the child had your eyes. I wondered, I feared, but I told myself it wasn't my place to dig deeper." Her eyes filled with tears as she looked up at him. Powerful people wanted it buried. There were whispers, threats. I thought staying silent was the safest choice for the girl. Edward's jaw tightened, rage surging through him. "So you let her grow up thinking no one wanted her? You let her suffer alone because you were afraid of my family?" Sister Margaret flinched at his words. "I thought I was protecting her." "Protecting her?" His voice rose. "You protected no one. You condemned her to loneliness. You let her believe she was unwanted, unloved, when she had a father all along." His chest heaved, guilt and fury tearing him apart. He saw Anna's face in his mind, her tears, her desperate pleas. And now he knew the truth. It was his own family's betrayal, his own cowardice, that had destroyed her. By the time Edward stormed out of the orphanage, he was a man consumed. He wanted to gather Lily in his arms, to tell her she was his daughter, to promise she would never be alone again. But fate is rarely so kind. Word of the truth did not stay buried. Sophia's mother, a sharp-eyed socialite with a taste for gossip, stumbled across a fragment of it during one of her charity meetings. She had always been close to the Harris family. Whispers, hints, and an old letter were enough to spark her delight. "Oh, the billionaire's secret child," she laughed one evening over champagne. "This will make the society pages sing." Within days, rumours spread like wildfire. At first, in hushed tones, "Mr. Harris has an illegitimate daughter." Then louder, crueler. "The orphan girl is his mistake." By the time the gossip reached the schoolyard, it had turned into poison. "Did you hear? Lily is the billionaire's accident. They say her mum begged him for help, but he abandoned her. No wonder she's in the orphanage. She wasn't wanted by anyone." The children laughed, cruel in their innocence. Sophia, smug with her mother's discovery, delivered the final blow. "See? I told you, Lily. You're nothing but a shameful secret. Even your own dad wouldn't claim you Lily's world shattered." The words pierced deeper than anything she had ever heard. Her chest burned, her knees weak. The whispers surrounded her, choking her, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't breathe. That evening, Edward found her sitting alone by the school steps, her backpack abandoned at her side. Her small frame trembled, her face streaked with silent tears. "Lily," he said softly, approaching her. She looked up at him, eyes red and filled with pain. The sight pierced him. "Why?" Her voice broke, trembling but steady enough to cut through him. Why did you pretend to be my dad if it was all a lie? Edward froze. The words felt like knives. You made me believe, just for a moment, that I wasn't alone, Lily continued, her voice rising with the force of her heartbreak. And now, everyone laughs at me. They say I'm your mistake. They say I wasn't wanted, and you, her lips trembled, you didn't deny it. Edward stepped forward, his hands outstretched. Lily, listen to me. I didn't know. I didn't know about your mother. I didn't know about you. I swear I... But she pulled back sharply, shaking her head. I don't need pity, she whispered, her voice breaking. I don't need lies. I don't need you to play pretend. I just need the truth. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks now, her small hands trembling as she wiped them away.